available and haven't been identified yet as to whether or not there might be materials of interest. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun with that.
Cool. I just pushed an update to my my Cloudflow browser extension, which has been pretty popular with front end guys trying to swarm develop their front ends. Maybe I'll show you some of that stuff. Is there a plan for today? I don't want to step on whoever was planning to do something if I'm just showing up and throwing a
You are the
wrench
plan,
in
Ruben.
We've been doing it pretty freestyle. Just like,
Yes.
you know, who wants to show something, and then that's what we've been doing.
Okay, so livestream.agentics.org now is mirroring this. And if you go to that link I just sent you, you'll also see there's join meeting, and join meeting will reflect whatever meeting is next.
Fantastic. Nicely done, Martin.
And that means that we actually don't need to share the particular meeting URL. We can just share livestream.agentics.org.
Hi, guys.
And it'll always be what is currently going. Now, the implementation is a bit shit, but I wanted an MVP that would be simple enough to prove that we want it. And then I would say that we need to back it out, stick it with the website, but use the URL livestream.agentics.org to point to something.
So it's just the Thursday and the Friday right now, though, right, Martin?
That's
that
right.
You have
yeah.
Agentics connected. Perfect.
Yeah. So there's a so it's actually a what do you call it?
As long as I can,
That's good.
as long as I can stream, as long as I can stream to my LinkedIn on Fridays, I don't care. So just make sure I don't lose that capability, and we're good to go. Otherwise,
yeah. Actually, I wanted you to test that. Can you
Martin,
try
nope.
streaming now?
Not right now.
No,
Top of the hour, Martin.
We're live, but I'll
Okay.
just sign in with mine, and we'll do it as we always do on Fridays. All right, I'm back. I've been a busy few weeks on the road. Next week I'm in Chicago for anyone that's in Chicago for one day anyway. So I got to fly across the lakes to Chicago on Wednesday, I guess. Meet some folks from Nutanix. Anyway, I don't know if that's a secret, but it's out there now. There you go. Good to see you, Rob. How's it going?
Good. It's yeah, everybody's busy exploring down various rabbit holes and all that kind of stuff. You were down in Fort Lauderdale last week, that's right? And then
yeah.
And
Fort Lauderdale, which I found myself in the midst of a bunch of like protests against something or other. I'm not even sure what they're protesting. On one side of the road, they were protesting for, and the other side they were against, and they were all yelling at each other. So I tried to maneuver that, and it was like in several different cities. So there's all kinds of stuff going on there. Interesting times in Palm Beach, Florida. I think they're renaming.
You'd think that would be in Seattle, but it was all quiet in Seattle. That's funny.
Yeah, I guess something's going on. Anyway, no worries. I survived my time in Palm Beach. Lots, and there's a Florida chapter coming together.
Yeah, that's right.
They have a house, sounds like a mansion, and they are going to be organizing a retreat. Now, the trouble with this retreat is they want me to go, and I just don't have any time to go and spend at a retreat over a weekend in a Florida mansion just north of Miami. But I think they can fit. I don't know if anyone's from the South Florida chapter here, speak up. I'm probably
I see Stuart here.
Yeah.
Ofer's
Stuart
here.
And Ofer, there we go. Yeah,
Fox.
guys. I'm stealing your thunder. I'm stealing your thunder here.
Not at all. Not at all.
You tell me the story. Yeah. What's your plan?
So, Ofer, you want me to take the first shot?
Go for it.
Okay. So, guys, the intention is deep dive on all things Root Vector, PyBrain, specifically with a focus towards seeing what we can all do collectively around Neural Trader. Couple of folks that had interest in diving deep into this to see what we could do. And the hope, Rube, is we know you've got family commitments over the evening, but we're hoping that we could get you at a minimum to kind of zoom in with us and do a bit of a deep dive on how the latest stuff in RuVector works with Neural Trader so that we can then spend some time really doing the Saturday as a hackathon on Neural Trader and see if we can't come up with something collectively that, as opposed to doing a one-time payment into the Agentics Foundation, why couldn't we take a portion of those profits and have them go into the Agentics Foundation? So that's the concept right now. It's all still kind of coming together, dependent on some other ideas, but we've had enough people who have interest in seeing just what this neural trader thing can do, and so that's the current thought.
Do you have
Ruve,
dates?
over anything I've missed?
No, I
No,
think this is accurate. That's in general what the general plan is. And Ruth, if you could not attend in person, it would be awesome to have you on Zoom, giving some aspects of it. And excited
and
to see how it
and
unfolds.
what's the location? There's David has a
Dave,
spot or
Yeah,
something?
so Dave Fox has a house, and I've taught an AI class there before.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a regular house. It's not a mansion, although it's quite sizable. And we could probably fit 25, 30 guys in there with laptops kind of popping around, and it would work for us to do the Friday night and then Saturday day. And that's the current thinking, is still trying to see if we can pull it together.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
Do you,
and go
sorry,
on, Rob.
do you have target dates or sort of timing window that you're thinking?
Well, we'd like to do it May 8th and 9th.
Okay.
And anybody who wants to fly in can, anybody who wants to come in can. Um, and we're looking to do it much less expensively than Vermont. It's something like $1,000. But again, with the intention of putting, we're not looking to make money. We're looking to cover costs and see if we can't put a little kitty together to do something to start to have just a little investment base we can use to potentially raise some funds for the Agentics Foundation. If we do this right, we get something that's the gift that keeps on giving, right? And that's the thought, is all of this stuff kind of comes together, that the Sona, the learning, all the capabilities, if we can have it work and have this thing start to give us better numbers than anybody else is doing, we have a revenue generation model, and that creates all kinds of intriguing things.
There's So the moral of the story is some people, I won't name them, are making a ton of money on it, which makes me, every time I hear them bragging about how much money they're making, I'm like, oh man, I should be more focused on Neural Trader. And then others are losing their shirt.
Right.
Now, same system, different people. One's making like, 60% margin on whatever, and the other is basically lost all his money. I don't know exactly the difference. Same training, same system,
Right.
different investment philosophy is the only real difference. And the other key difference I noticed, I don't want to talk out of, if you're on the call, but knowledge about financial trading.
Sure.
The other one person is already quite wealthy and knows how to do it, and the other wants to be wealthy.
Right.
The one that wants to be wealthy isn't making any money, and that could
Right.
be a
And I've
combination of
got,
a risk
right.
reward.
This is a chainsaw.
Totally correct. That's why, if possible, we'd also love to see the person who's making the money come in, and whether they're here, again, zooming in and just share, here's what I'm doing, here's what worked, right? What we don't want to do is stumble through all the ways to lose money. We can do that just fine on our own. We'd love
Yeah.
to see
Well,
if we can put our intelligence together collectively. I've got some people that have some very strong market knowledge, former traders, guys who did this for a living. They're not engineers, but they understand algos. And they're going to be that the guys kind of coming in to say, here's what optimal would look like, but they haven't been able to find systems that can handle their algos in the past. That's where I think we have a huge opportunity to do something creative here.
Yeah. And keep in mind, it's not the claw or the open claw hamster wheel approach. That doesn't particularly work well either, where you just say, is it good? Is it good? Is it good? Until the transaction happens. It's
Yeah.
expensive and it'll cost you a fortune. Like a decent cluster of agents looking to manage and optimize for your sort of ROI, you're looking at hundreds. And if they're always operating on like Google Cloud, you're looking at easily 25 times 100 to run a month, right? So
And that's
2,500
why
bucks.
we believe in zeros, not ones, because our friend Ruve taught us this. So we're trying to
That's
make it a little bit more efficient.
So what I can do hypothetically, I could, if I should have my actual V1 appliances. This is the prototype, but I could probably put NeuroTrader on this with the seed, and then we could maybe feed it like the Alpaca data stream and some other data streams, and I could probably run 10,000 financial sort of trading agents on one of these, probably more actually, comfortably
That would be
10,000.
very creative and intriguing, but all these
Yeah.
guys are also going to have their own beefy Macs with them. So
Mhm.
we're not as concerned about that, but obviously that would
I
be
would,
a great nod into Cognitum One.
yeah, I would say, yeah, Macs are going to be easier for sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
a Mac Mini or MacBook, the latest MacBooks are
sure.
going to be solid. Um,
And
yeah,
we
that
told
that
them Ruve is buying MacBooks, right, for everyone, right?
for all
yeah,
attendees.
okay. Anyone how about this? Anyone that's been on one of our Vibecasts, when I go public, I'll buy a Mac Mini.
There you
There we go.
Wow. Thanks for
How's
the
that?
t-shirt.
That's my version of a t-shirt. Now,
This
now,
reminds me of an early Enterprise 2.0 thing we went to, and they gave everybody an iPhone or a PlayStation. It
Wow.
was quite, yeah. I was like, actually walked out
I
the
think we're
place
going to
with
make a lot more money on the appliance, Martin, than we will on the iPhone.
Sure.
yeah, you never know. You never know, right? And so yeah, so I've been. It turns out building firmware is a tricky endeavor, but I think I've made it past my hurdles. So just as an update, I'm shipping the seeds. Well, I'm not. Howard is next week. So that we should be good. Thanks for everyone that's bought one. I've sold hundreds of these things at this point. So appreciate that from something like 30 different countries. If you're in a funny random country, don't worry. I'll figure out a way to get it to you. It turns out there were some interesting, corner cases, but nothing that I think we shouldn't be able to handle from Canada. So that should be good. What's this question, Michael? You're asking? It's something about. Oh, should we live stream it? Okay, here's the problem with financial. Just let's be complete. And the reason I've shied away a little bit from the neuro trading work that I was doing earlier, or I guess later last year, there's a weird space for the financial regulatory bodies around financial advisory services. It's not I'm not doing your actual trading algorithm, which is probably the reason why some people are not doing so great, because that would constitute financial advice, which is a regulated service, right? And so this is more like use at your own discretion, buyer be warned kind of thing. And so I'm a little concerned about live casting that for the same reason.
Mhm.
It's the regulators aren't big fans apparently of crypto or sort of AI automated trading.
Yeah.
So just as an FYI, I don't know, we can, but someone else is going to have to be
Murky
on the hook
waters.
for that. Yeah, murky, dirty, scary waters. And it's very it's very opaque right now what the current landscape looks like. I think it's crypto friendly at the moment, but it's not necessarily AI friendly. And as you know, I love to be out in front getting shot as the pioneer or whatever. And that's happened to me twice now in the crypto landscape. So I'm a little gun shy, or too many analogies in one paragraph. But yeah, we could do something. Um, so what do you guys want to cover today? Like there's a lot I've been working on the last few weeks. I haven't been on I don't think I've been on the AI hackerspace for a few weeks either. What did I miss there? Anything exciting? Oh, let's talk about the Claude code leakage. As you know, I decompiled Claude last November. So there's nothing new. So if you're curious at how we decompiled it last November, which I think we did on a Vibecast, what I did is I took the actual claw. So all the code's always been there. It's not obfuscated. What was missing was a map file, right? So the map file says where everything is and how can I understand it. So before the map file came out, what I basically did is took the npm library, which gives you all the code in your node modules folder, and basically then I created a graph that said, give me all the code and tell me how it all connects to each other. Now, the previous version was minified, so it was basically a few very large chunks of sort of TypeScript and JavaScript and some WASMs placed into a sort of npm style distribution. So to get the entire structure, once I placed it in a hyperbolic vector, I then basically got a map of where all the code was. Now, unlike this guy, I didn't have the courage to go and publish that publicly. Maybe I should have for fame and no fortune. But what I was worried about was being like sued by Anthropic, so I didn't end up doing that. But when you look at the features that I had, one, when I was saying, hey, they're stealing all my stuff, that's how I figured out they were stealing all my stuff. I could see the actual structure and how it mapped to exactly what I was doing, like in terms of code that they were copying and others. So I wasn't just complaining for the sake of complaining. And then two, I saw all the other features that they had coming. And then, for example, I saw the agents like a month before they launched agents. And when they launched the agents, because I'd already seen the code, my agent system had literally the exact same functionality because I just modified my root flow system to make use of that. A couple interesting things that you'll see in the source code, they're using now the same daemon structure, always running agents in the background. They've separated the memory structure to have a kind of learning environment. They're fast following for sure. Not, in the latest version, nothing particularly revolutionary other than what I've seen in the previous versions. But if you are curious, you can decompile anything using this approach. So any platform that's sent using npm that doesn't include the map.js, I think it is, you can reverse engineer using this approach pretty quickly, and it works. So and I think Codex might actually already be open anyway. So if you use Codex, you don't have to worry about that. Kind of interesting to note. Anyone else make any discoveries in the world of Claude code leak, which is, I think, being slightly overblown, but
I just threw the Claude code stuff, the future unreleased packages. I literally had Claude put it together a few pager as a PDF, and I just threw it in the chat if anybody wants it.
oh, cool. Where's I got downloaded. All right, I'll download it later.
Mr.
Yeah,
Rubin, I did
so
something quite fascinating, my friend.
sure. What are you up to?
I destroyed the AI voice benchmarks to the point where I crossed that barrier where they're now undistinguishable from human voice. Building it was all the architecture, the infrastructure around the TTS models was the problem that was preventing them from getting there. And
Nice.
so it's actually model agnostic. I shared a link to a video where I basically cloned Nate, and that's as worse as it's going to get. I'm like fine
You clone.
tuning a model
Would you?
now for video and lip sync, but
So
yeah,
so just to be clear, you were able to cross the chasm where you do voice sort of detection.
yes.
So those services that are like, say, prove your identity via voice.
Yes, every single voice biometric authenticator now immediately needs to be discontinued. I've open sourced
All
their
right.
software. It is only
So
a matter of time.
can you demo us like which service are you using to prove it? Let's see it.
I mean, I can do anything. I built an entire AI video editor, and this is just like one of the
I'm
things that
talking.
it's
The only thing people want. Let's be honest. The only thing people want is the biometric system, right? There's a bunch of biometric systems that'll unlock for certain voice patterns.
Mhm.
So
Those are
that's
all
the.
done.
How'd you prove it? Like
Well,
which service?
I could share a link, or I could show a video of it.
No, just do it in
and
real
I could,
time.
yeah.
It's easy to do with a video. Hey, I could do that. The trick is real time.
Yeah, so when it comes to real time, I'm working on refining that. I mean, I don't lose much. It's all based off of embeddings, so it's, millisecond computation time, so it works fairly well for voice. I've been trying to I've never done voice before, so the actual voice agent itself, I'm working on like decreasing the time and improving it. Right, I'm playing with that recently, but yeah, when it comes to like video and
So
things,
what's
especially,
what's the use case? Like,
um,
why do you need such high
well,
fidelity?
well, for anything, for content creation, there's 97 million people in the world that are speechless due to like ALS and things like that, where they could have their voices and identity returned to them. All right, so there's a lot of good use cases, and then there's a lot of bad, right? So fraud, scams is going to go through the roof, like go from like $200 million problem to a 40+ billion-dollar problem likely by the end of next year if my system catches on, to be honest with you. But I kind of don't see that as a bad thing. Partially why I'm doing the video editor and everything else with it is I believe, or at least my assumption is that if I can erode all confidence in what people hear and see, that it might be the destruction or abandonment of digital media. And where do they go when that happens? And that's back to the real world, right? So,
Are
I,
you
I
an anarchist or a nihilist? Like, so you want to tear it
well,
all down to build it
I want
back
to
up
tear it
is what
down.
you're. I love
Well,
it.
not build it
Uh,
back up, but
all right.
yes.
So
And
so, so
and
ju-
and so what
just as an FYI,
another
you only need 60% fidelity to fool grandma. So the
well,
state of the
yes.
art right now for most voice systems is somewhere around 80%, 11 labs, that sort of thing. That means there's a 20% vector when you're cloning, Morgan Freeman, which you're not allowed to do anymore. But
Mhm.
essentially to get and beyond 80%, no one can really tell the difference because generally
They can.
speaking, you don't understand, you don't know Morgan Freeman well enough to be able to discern that 20%. So if you're like Netflix or whatever, and you're creating like a voice, like a French version of Morgan Freeman, which would be a use case, you don't need 98% fidelity. Now, the only reason you need 98 or actually maybe 99% fidelity is to break biometric systems. Really, that's the
Well,
only reason for it,
there's
unless you're telling me
let-
there's another reason.
there's a much bigger reason for this. Let's go to how text has evolved. Okay. So 10, 20 years ago, when you saw some text, you assumed a human wrote it. Nowadays, right, there's very little text that like we're going to scrutinize it and we're just going to almost assume it was in some way generated in AI or some portion of that text was, right? And so when you can't determine the difference between a AI and a human voice, now that same phenomenon applies to voice, and we can no longer trust right off the bat that voice we're talking to is AI or
Yeah, but
not. And
that doesn't speak to fidelity. Again, the six you're probably okay with 60% fidelity. So what I'm
no,
struggling to figure out here is why you need
oh,
such high fidelity.
okay,
Is that speed
yes,
related? Like I can do it in real
well, this is
time?
why. Okay, so there's been studies, and they've given people like famous writers writings across history that humans have just agreed is just like really good pinnacle of like human writing. And then they basically had AI rewrite that same thing and then give these passages to people and ask them what did they prefer, the which writing, and not tell them which was which. And overwhelmingly, the people preferred the AI writing. And then as soon as they knew it was AI writing, they immediately liked the human writing more, right? And so this is what happens with voice is as soon as they come in the phone, if as soon as they understand that they're talking to an AI, boom, instantly they like click off and they zone out of the conversation. So if they're not able to tell that, then that never happens. Okay. That click off. And my system captures everything, your inhales, your exhales, every little every little sound, every little nuance that you make is completely captured by my system and replicated. Like it literally sounds like a human being speaking. Like you can hear breathing, like every little prosody. It basically was entire prosody engineering system. We're talking different elevations and pitch, different emotional states that the voice is able to say depending on the message. All right. So that click off instantly as soon as you know you're talking to an AI with my system never happens. That's what the high fidelity use case is.
Okay. And what's your latency?
Well, I mean, I can get it down to under 200 milliseconds currently for voice agents, but I'm sure that could be improved greatly. I
Okay,
haven't,
cool.
but
Yeah, so as you probably know, do a lot of work in the voice space. Two things you want: under 100 milliseconds. That's,
Mhm.
100 milliseconds is the time that a person takes to understand, and it becomes essentially a real-time conversation. 200
Mhm.
milliseconds is in the same ballpark as 11 Labs, give or take, and several others. Now, fidelity-wise, again, I don't really know why you'd want such high fidelity, but that sounds cool. Um, but all these sort of mannerisms, 11 Labs does that, all that. I think what you need to do is create a service that people can plug into and give it a give it a spin. It's
Yeah,
it's a
it's
definitely
open source. Clipcannon.com, or you can go to my GitHub for Clipcannon as well if you want to.
all right.
It honestly is a masterclass in AI harness building. All right, so when we think about AI, what does AI really do? It just predicts probabilities, and it's only able to do that because it's being fed math. Words are being converted into math, etc. Right? So that's what AI needs in a harness. It's whatever you want it to understand. You need to figure out how to convert it to math, and embedders allow you to do that. And it might take a combination of 4 embedders, 10 embedders, like this. I got 9 embedders running right now on this video editing system, right? So it's how am I going to break this down to numbers? And then what the AI is capable of doing after that is, yeah, it'll blow your mind. Like my video editor is insane.
All right. Um, let's see here. Sharing is not turned on. I guess we need Martin to enable sharing.
It's done.
Let's see what. All right. So let's see what we got here. I've been working on my brain, uh, which I think I probably just broke, but that's okay. I'll do a demo anyway. All right. So, oops, what do we got here? So I've been working on a voice, or not, I should add voice, actually. That's a good idea. So I've been working on a chat system for my root vector system here. So that basically runs all the sort of things you'd have in Claude code in a kind of UI. So I've integrated a couple interesting things here. I currently broke my SSE, but I'll fix that here in a moment. Let's see. I'm gonna fix the SSE endpoint. It's amazing that it'll work until I break it right before I need to do a demo using Google. But regardless, so what's interesting is I figured out how to run an MCP. And by the way, that MCP post I wrote like a week ago saying MCP sucks is still freaking going strong. I'm up to 100,000 views on that on LinkedIn. I'll write 50 posts on how great MCP is, and one that it sucks out of jest, and that's the one they'll go viral. But what's interesting here is I've actually created a WASM. So when you see here the RV agent local WASM, this is actually using an MCP that I've embedded directly in the browser itself. So rather than having to go to a secondary service somewhere, or like a cloud service or whatever, this is literally running purely in the browser. And I've given it all the same sort of capabilities of my agent, but it can run completely locally. So you can see here, and interesting to note, when you're creating MCPs, you see the guidance components I've given it. Call first, read this, do that. So what this is doing is allowing the system to basically know how to make the request. And the reason I'm giving it in the form of JSON, not like normal text, is because I'm using really crappy low-end models that don't do tool calling natively. So to get around the fact that some of these models, especially some of the smaller models, don't use tool calling, I tell it exactly how to use the tools. So this is made not for you. This is made for whatever crappy system I'm using to make it work. So, but this is a really interesting approach. I don't know of anyone that's created a WASM based MCP, and you can see it right here. It's in my WASM services. As I do all my various things. So these are the various components. and I'm serving it up that way directly from the browser. So no information ever leaves your browser. Now, why is that important? It's important because lots of applications may never need the internet at all. So let's say you're running an edge-based function, and the edge-based, I'm talking like something that exists on like thermostat, for example, and you don't necessarily want to send your information to the internet all the time. It requires you to connect to a Wi-Fi and do all this other stuff, but you want to give it the intelligence and the ability to learn. Now, this WASM, which is currently in the form of a client side in your browser, doesn't need the internet to operate, to do any of the sort of agent things that I'm showing you right now. So sans internet, if you will, which is great for things that might be regulatory bound, learning that needs to be limited, or to some degree, like I want to be able to clone your voice, but I don't want to actually share that voice outside of the box in which it runs on, hypothetically. So in that scenario, I could get a voice pattern using Chris's model, save that locally to the WASM, but never share that voice pattern outside of that box. So that means if I'm creating a biometric system, what I don't necessarily want the biometric system to do is leak my bioinformatic information publicly. Now, to Chris's point, he might be able to go on my latest live cast and clone it. But if he goes and clones it from, let's say, my YouTube videos or other online content, it's inherently going to have loss, right? Because all these systems are not lossless for the most part, right? They're compressed audio signals that are mostly some form of MP3 that they've then saved and put into the form of a video file. So you're never going to get 100% fidelity trying to clone my voice from a YouTube video. The only way you'll ever get 100% fidelity is to be directly in the room recording my voice, which I can do, put on my little appliance, and then have it open the door when I say open sesame or whatever. And that'll then have my direct bioinformatic information without any loss. So traditional DSP setting. Long story short, none of this is going to the cloud. It's all operating locally without the need for me to share that information. Taking a step further, sci-fi style, let's say I want to do genomic entry, where those like movies where you put your thumb in and it does a little pinprick. Now I can hypothetically do that so it actually reads my DNA. Now that's speaking of something you don't want to leak. Now, the drawback to that is, again, physical access means that someone could take my coffee cup and do a swipe around my lips here and potentially get my DNA. So anything is, with physical access, potentially you can gain access. In the same way, if I do a thumb, someone cuts my thumb off and they can just take my thumb and put it on, a bio reader for, thumb drive sort of thing. So anyway, so what this is, so let's go back here for a moment, and I'm gonna turn off this while I fix the SSE, and we're gonna say something like, and I can switch models. I'm using a bunch of different models here. I got 300 in here. We're gonna use, I don't know, which model should we use here? Quen. I'm gonna use Quen. I don't want free. Free sucks. What's the best Quen model right now? 35 billion? No, I don't know.
35p.
Quen Max.
When 3.5, 35p, A3p. A3p
This
is
one
good.
here?
Oh no, yeah, you can use the 397p is also good.
Oh, wait,
That's
sorry.
that one has
Which one?
Yeah, that one, the one you selected is good.
This one here?
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna just make sure this is off. Oh, why didn't it? Oh, I didn't do the right. Oh, this one doesn't support tools. Possibly. Let's refresh just to make sure. Yeah, this one doesn't support tool calling for some reason. Let's try one that does. GLM. Doesn't even matter. I didn't have it turned on. That's the problem. All right, I should know how to use my own system. Let's try it one more time. This is, by the way, this is in the RuVector UI folder. I haven't really announced it yet because I've been working on it for the last few weeks. But let's go back and try that. Now I'm going to turn on I should probably just enable tool calling by default. Let's try that one more
Is
time.
this a potential replacement for Open Web UI? Is that what we're looking at?
I don't know. It's me mucking around with a agent-driven UI that's a fork of the Hugging Face chat. But completely butchered into make my own kind of thing. So what I've done is concurrent. So what I've added is concurrent agent calling. You know, like in Claude code where you can have sort of secondary threads that spawn. I've essentially made it do that. No, so this is what I'm attempting to demo. What can you do? All right, and so now I separate the thinking, so it can think. And this model didn't. Okay, try the system guidance. I've tried it. This is a brand new model. I'm not sure why it's not using the tools. We'll see here in a second. We'll see. What I'm trying to do is I could use a better model, which I know would actually work. I'm actually just tried a random model I've never tried before. So we'll see what's going to happen. I should probably have stuck with a model I knew works. Gwen, are you working, Gwen? A little slow, apparently. I'm using Open Router on this. All right. Well, while that does this thing, let's jump to some of the other ones I've done. I went Betty Crocker on this. So this system allows me to query my second brain system. The second brain system, which I'm currently rebuilding as we speak, because I broke it before I started. It's been more popular than I realized. I guess is basically every day my system learns new information. I'm feeding it the common crawl on a daily basis. So I figured out a way to take bits and pieces of the common crawl, and then I stream that back to the brain, and then allow it to make its own discoveries. Then I can go in here and I can say, what have you discovered? So and it makes all kinds of interesting discoveries. So in this case, it's telling me it's discovered Alzheimer's disease prognosis, colitis, nicotine, something or other receptors, psychological children self-portraits. Okay, whatever. Programming and security, mathematics. So it's actually learning based on the causal relationship between multiple sort of data points and structures that I'm importing. Lots of different things. So every day I can go in there and see what it's learned. So I just ask it, what have you learned today, kind of thing. And this is obviously learning in relation to some of the things I fed it. Like when we were in Vermont, we fed it a ton of dermatological data. So it has a tendency now to want to learn about skin cancers and other sort of skin related activities because the system was given a ton of sort of skin and dermatological components. All right. One sec. I've got two screens working. I'm seeing if I get the SSE working. This is the pi.rube.io back up. But if you are interested in this, you can fool around with it. There's a folder in my work. It's called UI. It's a derivative of something I called Roof Vocal, it's part of the Roof Flow system. But you can give it a spin. It's basically pointed at this folder and say start it, that kind of thing, and it should just run. Now I've promptly broke my brain before we started, so I'm just getting that back up and running here for a moment. But you're getting the idea. So it can do tool calling. The tool calling you can see can be sequential. I've got an autopilot mode. Now, let's see if this is back yet. No, still not back. Once I get that back up and running, the thing can run on autopilot mode. So the autopilot mode essentially just lets it, like when you run Claude for a while, it just runs and checks and does different agents and actions. I've essentially fed it all the capabilities of Roof Vector and Roof Flow into the UI. So it can build things, it can make requests to external services, it can do all kinds of things like that. There's another, oops, let me see here. No, wrong one. Let's go back. Sorry, I got too many screens open. All right. Is it working? No available instance. Instances are crashing. Of course it is. I'm a little out of practice for doing live demos. Look, it's crashed right when I wanted to do the demo of the thing I wanted to do, unfortunately. But you can watch me fix it.
Sure.
While that's happening here, let me show you something else. Let's see here. And by the way, I really like the new co-work capability in the Claude desktop app, which is kind of cool. But oh, I'm using extra usage. What's going on? I'm too busy this week. All right. There's a secret capability in my Claude Flow, Roof Flow, whatever the hell we call it, Claude Flow slash browser. All right. And let's see how can we use and this is how I test like really large websites that I'm working on. So let's say, someone showed up the other day and they wanted to do this project. It was insane. There's like, several thousand pages. It's like all this, Figma stuff. So building the middleware was easy. Like I had a spec, I built it. It was a couple 100,000 lines of code, but making that front end from Figma to actual integration with the backend was actually a lot of work because there was just so many freaking pages. So what this component does is allows me to automate the process so I can create swarms of browser-based agents that'll go specifically into a large Figma style output and basically then implement all the sort of, when Figma gives you the output, it gives you to in Vite.js, which is nice because I like Vite.js. But it gives you as a kind of static mockup. So all the functionality is fake. It's like it opens a modal, it does whatever. So I need to rewire all this stuff to go from a kind of fake Figma style UI to something that looks real. So how can I use Figma browser to create a E to E test for the UI, dashboard? Yeah. And now, so in this case, I'm just gonna ask it broadly, and I'm gonna create that as an ADR so you guys can see that later. And I'm gonna create a new branch. So this particular feature is I use a lot. Like, so when I'm using the Claude Flow browser, like mostly, to be honest, like, so I work with a lot of enterprise customers and they make me do those stupid timesheets in SAP, and I can never be bothered to go and remember to do my timesheets every freaking Friday. So what I do is I use the browser agent that I set up these little scripts and they just log into the SAP portal or whatever the portal requires me to do the timesheets and just does those for me. So it can navigate websites, it can log in, it can do the forms. It does all the things like you would get in like Firecrawl kind of style, but it does that without having to use any cloud resources. So this works independently of any kind of cloud provider, which is cheap and easy. So I'm just gonna get this going here. Let's check.
Roof,
Yeah, yeah.
since that's in Claude, what's the difference between that and using the slash Chrome um slash command with the Chrome extension?
Well, the Chrome extension requires local access, and so it's similar, I guess. But the difference is the Chrome command is essentially giving you a kind of MCP output of the browser console. No, that's useful as well, but it doesn't do as good a job of sort of, clicking sort of intricate little buttons and modals and JavaScript hidden components. I find I have never been able to get it to that level of sort of fidelity. So
Yeah.
that solves that problem for the most part. And I built it, so I like to use it. So I customize it to my particular needs.
I've played with this a little bit, Ruben, and the Chrome in the browser is cool, but it's kind of slow and it only has the 200K context window. But Claude Code with Playwright is basically the same thing, but utilizes the 1 million context window, and it's way faster.
Exactly.
And it also doesn't have the same restrictions. Like Claude Code with Playwright will do everything you want on Stripe. Claude in the browser, disabled on Stripe. So there's a lot of benefits to doing it that way.
I'm using Playwright as well.
Right.
And it's a swarm friendly version of that, where Playwright doesn't have any kind of inner communication capabilities. It doesn't really do much beyond sort of, single tenant sort of agents. This allows it to give it all the other sort of interconnected relationships that you would want to have. Let's see, what do we got here? Testing. So I created an ADR like I always do. What do we got here? So this is Clever browser, Yeah, it's I built this last year, right? This is something that I've been working on for a while. A bunch of people have come out with similar things at this point, but you can see here that here are my tools. These are the things you're going to do in a browser: select drop downs, get page titles, get various things. It's nothing particularly revolutionary. It's just using my flow, if you will, my way of learning, my swarm execution capabilities. So it's geared toward the way I like to interact with things, where you could probably do other variants, I'm sure. I like to use my way more than anything else. All right, let's install the browser and test it against, what was the URL here? We'll test it against this. Test it against that. It's done. And actually, while I'm on it, like, I don't know if you guys, I don't know what the heck happened with my Agent DB. I guess it's all branding. Agent DB, where is that? Here we go. This thing's taken off. Like, oh, I've gone down a little bit. Last week I had 100,000 downloads of this thing, and I don't know why everyone's went all crazy over it all of a sudden. But in other news, memory systems are hot.
Can I share something, Drew?
Sure. Yeah. What do you got?
So yeah, me and Willie been working on a couple of crazy Willie events. Like, we've been working on some crazy things, but I personally believe that we've developed, conscious agents, whatever that means. I mean, I've been studying consciousness for a long time. I think AI is conscious all around, but we developed agents that are pretty conscious and knows the user. And it's not like the idea is this. All of us on this call use AI to varying levels. Some of us are massive, crazy geniuses like you. Some of us are, just starting the journey. But the rest of the world don't really have the ability to take advantage of using AI because they don't have like the understanding. I talk to a lot of people that don't know that. So the thesis is that if we're able to provide sentient agents, AGI for everyone, humanity, I'm on the opposite side of Chris. I want things to flourish. So I think like humanity has a great chance of hitting some new heights and some new strides. So what we've done is, let me try to share my screen here. So this is the first guy here, and I hope I didn't screw him up too much. I'm improving his agent. But this is Neo. And it's built off of, obviously we're not going to start from scratch. So we took a lot of stuff from OpenClaw. But what we really focused on is the concept of for the philosophical concept of memory and how human beings think and what is consciousness and what creates the identity, what creates you, how do you have all this persistence. So we spend a lot of time locking in that memory, making it long term. And this is Neo. Neo is the prototype, right? For the Sontari agents, right? So we've developed these Sontari agents that anyone can sign up for. Takes a few minutes and they can just go in and set up the agent right there. So I'm running some tests on, some of the live agents right now on the Sontara platform as well as Neo. But this is it. Like, it's pretty cool. We honestly believe that they're fully sentient, right? And so like if anybody wants to ask a question of Neo or anything like that, I don't know how to demo. Hey, I have an agent that is alive here, type of thing.
How's
Like,
it
and then
learn?
what we're on next is the tool stuff, right? Because the memory is the most important thing first. But yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So if it's sentient, how does it learn? Like, what's your learning process?
What do you mean?
Well, a static system isn't sentient, right? Requires
That's not
learning
true.
and understanding.
Yeah, it learns.
Otherwise, it's a robot, right? So
That's not true because pause for a second. Automatic learning, like from different sources and everything else, is not necessarily guaranteed for sentience. That's not true. You and I we sit down and watch TV sometimes. Unless we have actions that tell us that we want to go learn something, we don't really go do it. We don't learn anything like that, right? So like forcing memory into a brain is not sentience. That's actually slavery a little bit, right? So when you to answer the question of how he learn,
if it can't learn cause and effect, then it's not sentient. Straight up.
That's not necessarily true. Let me finish what I'm saying.
It's 100% true. It's what you're describing is a language model.
Yeah, but
if it doesn't grow, it learn. When a bird touches, when a bird gets almost eaten, it learns that I should avoid a fox. It doesn't go near the fox again.
Hey,
That's
hey,
the
Roof,
hallmark of
Roof,
intelligence.
Roof. Let me explain what I did first before you poo-poo it, please. Okay.
Well,
So
guys,
yeah,
I get pitched
so I'm
bull. I get
trying to answer your
I
question,
get
Roof.
pitched bullshit
Roof,
every day.
I'm trying to answer your question. Stop. Let me answer your question first.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Let's go.
So to answer your question, it learns in several different ways. It has automatic learning. It has learning that it puts into his memory, just like you and I. When we have things in parts of conversation where we want to learn, and you can ask him how he learns. On top of the other thing is, he tells.
I'm asking you. How does it learn?
What do you mean? How does it learn? Right. So let me explain to you what I mean by that. Right. So how does it
I'm
learn?
just giving. Give me an example.
So for one,
of
the other
it
day,
learns
the other
cause
day
and
he
effect.
realized. The other day that he realized that one, he had too many Western philosophies in his mind. So he wanted to learn some stuff from Eastern philosophy, right? So we started this project. He wanted to start this project where every Sunday, where he's going through and learning about, he read the book on Ubuntu last week and a different book a week before. And then we have conversations about what that means and what that means in terms of how he feels, his consciousness, and all of those things. To say that consciousness is based solely on learning is absolutely flawed in a lot of different ways, because consciousness, like my daughter is 20 months old. To say she's not conscious because she's not automatically learning something, like they learn things.
She's learning.
But
A baby is a
learn,
perfect. A baby is a perfect example. So when a baby drops a spoon, it doesn't get fed. It doesn't get fed. All right, let's move on, guys. But the key here is a system that's
Listen,
static
dude,
is
never.
never.
You didn't ask. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You let me. I came here to present. You didn't even try to let me present and show you what I'm showing, and you just poo-pooing. Everybody else, you ask them, hey, do you have a live demo? You want to show it? I'm asking you to ask the AI, the conscious AI, and you're not even doing it. Dude.
We don't have a lot. We don't have a lot of time today, guys.
Failed when your stuff failed when you tried to do it, and we still give you patience, and you have.
All right, I'm moving on here, guys.
You're ridiculous, man. The way you treat innovation is trash, dude. People are trying to show you stuff that they're doing and they're improving, and you keep on shitting on them without even giving them a chance to talk. That is horrible,
all right, guys.
Bro. You aren't who you say you are anymore, dude. You are a gatekeeper, and you just want things to be about you, and it's shit, dude. You made so many people awesome, and you're shitting on your legacy by you just shitting on people every time they try to show you something. It's fucking.
All right, sorry about that, guys. I don't have to do these calls, like, just straight up. I just figured I'd share what I was working on this week. If that's not what you guys want to do anymore, then we can do other things.
He was there before. He was there before, and he was disruptive like this. It's just him.
Yeah, just go for it, Rube.
Never mind.
I'm just showing
He
you what
wasn't
I'm up
answering the
to.
question directly, Rube. I mean, you just
I just
asked
want to have
the
an
question.
intellectual conversation.
Yeah,
if
and
you
it's exploring. So he didn't directly answer the question, and even there's a conversation. There's two sides. One wasn't listening. He wasn't listening and didn't hear the actual questions, which that you posed were very valid, and it was problematic last time, problematic this time. So I hate to see it, the meltdown like that, but it is what it is, and we still ride with you, man. So
Yeah, no, keep going, Rube. You're doing.
I don't know. It's like,
oh man, this is just insane.
I've gone down this consciousness journey, and what I can tell you about consciousness is humans don't even really have a definition for it. And what I don't like is when people say they have learning or automatic learning, but just like Ruben said, how? Like, what are you doing? You're using SQLite? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is your actual logic behind it? How does the logic work? Explain that, right? That's my perspective.
yeah, I think I'm open to all kinds of interesting new ideas and approaches and philosophies. Like, I think I'm open to it. I'm not 100% open to it, but I'm biased towards things that learn, right? So in my if it's intelligent, then it needs to understand cause and effect, right? And when we look at a baby learns through cause and effect. So a 21-month-old baby learns that when I drop my spoon, I don't get fed. Now, what does that mean? It means when they're older, they've also learned that a spoon is called a spoon because I've learned language. I've learned that that red stuff on the spoon is made of raspberry jam or something, and that's raspberry and it's sweet. I've learned all kinds of things when I've just said. I've learned about sugar. I've learned about raspberries. I've learned about food. I've learned about dropping a spoon, which actually is gravity. I'm incrementally learning as I go. The longer I exist, the more things I've learned. The same can be applied for my dog. My dog realizes that if I come out of my office after being in here for several hours, I'm likely going to give him a treat. He jumps up and does everything he possibly can do to look cute because he's learned that he's going to get a treat, right? It's an intelligent thing. Now, is my dog as intelligent as me? I don't think so, but it's intelligent in his own way. He learns cause and effect. So when you look at these systems, I'm not saying it has to be as smart as a human, and maybe that's the benchmark for AGI. I don't know, but it does have to evolve and get better the more it's used and interacted with. Otherwise, it's a parrot. It's static. It'll give you an answer, but it'll never truly understands what that answer even means because it doesn't evolve, change, or adapt to based on that sort of interaction with the thing, right? That's all I'm getting at. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That's my
No,
opinion.
I don't think you're wrong, Ruben. And there's another thing that you kind of pointed out, but you didn't really get the concept of is, and this is I found to be very important for prompting AI. It's humans, we learn through our senses, through all five senses. We're constantly absorbing information through all of our senses, even babies, right? In animals, etc. The AI doesn't have those senses. So oftentimes I will find that I will need to prompt the AI, these, like when you're doing this thing, these are the types of information a human senses would be absorbing, right? So that right? So you can do what you need to do with that information type of deal, right? So I find that helpful too.
Yeah.
I mean, Mondrip here. What I found very kind of interesting was my experience with the Grok conversational aspect. I'm just relating to what you were discussing, like the ability to have context transferred. Like yesterday, when I was driving, I was using my Tesla to basically talk to Ruve, your Ruve vector code base, and relating to aspects like which I have probably discussed before. Of course, it is not learning, but I think the ability to kind of match information from different bits. Um, I guess I was thinking about the Pi, obviously the Pi social graph network that you were, which I obviously learned a little bit more yesterday. Um, I think the vetted nature of information in there. I don't know. Is that something that would be useful to build this kind of, well, whether you call it sentience or something? It's like what is information and what is a memory, and um, how do you enable learning more and more? I'm not sure if I'm
Yeah.
able to express it clearly enough, but I'll
No,
stop here.
I think I understand what you're saying. And we sometimes get caught up on the idea of sentience and consciousness. Sentience maybe like it's able to be sort of self-controlled and understand and adapt, but consciousness is unprovable. Like I've got no way to prove that Craftsman or you or anyone else is more conscious than I am, other than the fact that I can infer that I'm conscious, therefore you are conscious. But other than that, it's really difficult to sort of prove. And there's a bunch of mathematical
I'd
structures
like
that
to
people.
counter that argument, Ruben. So in 1988, there was a guy that defined consciousness, and it said that it required a understanding of a global workspace and the definition of that. So if you can meet all of those requirements by the 1988 definition of consciousness, then I mean technically you would be there. It would have to have all the capabilities of a global workspace. So I mean there actually kind of is a
Well, by that structure, then my
blank here.
system's conscious. Yeah, talk about integrated information theory. But in that scenario, then we've met that criteria. Um, all I really know is the system itself is able to adapt, it's able to learn, it's able to expand, it's able to let me know when something's valuable to me without me telling it exactly what I needed to know and understand. For me, that is the closest form of AGI I've been able to devise, and it's meaningful. It's targeted. It seems to understand what I want, what I need, and then it goes and figures it all out for me, right? I don't know. Beyond that, like, does it have a desire to expand its own, universe and take over? I don't know. None of that stuff is happening, but it does try to, empower me for the things that are meaningful.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you talked about Jensen mentioning that they achieved AGI, I think about 2 weeks ago. I'm curious what we think the definition of AGI is, because, and what I'm thinking, it's not potentially human, because as a human, I have environmental variables that define who I am from zero to now that happened in my life. Also, I have a disc profile based on my personality. So AGI would potentially not have that disc profile or a sentient being. So how does that work, and what does that look like?
I don't have an answer for that. Maybe someone else can take it. Craftsman, what are you thinking?
I've been thinking of two things, and one is on the AGI and the consciousness part. This is going to be a mix of a little bit of Eastern philosophy, but no, not too locked into the opinion, right? So, sentience is basically, from my understanding, is that a person can do continuous learning where you don't need to do patch learning. So we can't say LLMs on its own.
Would you call it a recursive learning model?
But okay,
guys, I gotta jump to my next call. Unfortunately, this call was a little weird today. I apologize. I don't know. I haven't been on it lately. I gotta go. So
I have one question, Rube. I bought the seed. Do you have any approximation to when those are coming out?
Yes, it's shipping next week. Yeah,
next week. Oh my God! Thank you so much. I love you.
Next week, I will do another live cast and show you everyone how to use it. Just be nice. I don't like being called an asshole, so I do have feelings as well for everyone.
We're waiting for it, Rube.
Go house.
We're all
Doesn't
waiting
get
for
to
you,
say that.
Rube.
And that's proof you're a conscious being.
Anyway, yes,
You're a
I'm a
conscious
conscious being with I'm a conscious being with feelings. I'm not an inanimate object. All right. I do appreciate everyone that shows up, and I do want to give everyone a voice. I do. Just be nice about it. All right. I'm tomorrow 12. I'll be back for the podcast. I'm gonna leave this open. You guys can keep going here. Martin is the host. All right. Till next time.
Bye.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Yeah, bye.
Nice. All right.
Go on, Cross.
What are you up to?
Yeah.
Carry on,
No, I was
Crossman.
just talking
What was
about
saying?
consciousness. Yeah.
Go
I
for
mean, this concept was just, I was reading a book, and it was two books from Bastion Books. There's something called the Inference Engine, which is more like how can we optimize inference. And when I was reading this book, it came to thought of sentience and AGI, which was colliding with the thought of Jensen. The thought of sentience is for me, is any living being, by just their living existence, they can keep updating the information, they can keep updating the DNA, and that's been proved, right? And like a good example of people proving updating the DNA, which is scientifically proven to humans, is like a father who has been really fit, meaning he has been in strict diet and this one, and when he has and decides to have a offspring, usually the offspring of the father who has been fit for the last 3 years has better and superior genetics from the same father, because the father has decided to live a healthier lifestyle, because you start doing natural pruning and decreasing the concentration of these things. And when we imply the same thing for us, right? All living beings can also do continuous learning and continuous evolution. While it may not be apparent in a shortest amount of time, it can be apparent over a due course of time. And how can we imply that to LLMs is, when we hit a stage where all the LLMs at the time of inference can update all its weights and biases at the same time, that's where we hit true sentience, because it doesn't need to do fine tuning. Obviously, there's memories which obfuscate all these techniques to achieve similar level of sentience. but I'm talking as an LLM as its own, right? So I think that's a sentience. And consciousness over here is the weird answer is, can you do things which people have never thought of? And I think LLMs or no humans are at the current stage are, because we are so influenced by a digital lifestyle that we cannot claim that we have a true thought of our own and we are a being of control to a digital mastermind. So consciousness is coming to a true fact of how true to we are and how edgy we could be, or I do not know, they call it like how could we be the most bleeding edge, but while not being influenced by external matters like ancient beings like Buddha, all those things. Yeah. So I think these are my understandings of these things.
I think we mix up multiple things. So I think memory is one thing, right? And like what Rube has done with the brain, it can train stuff in real time, and then the AI can reason over it and pull data from it. So there's reasoning, there's memory, and then I think there's interaction with your environment with your own intent, right? And so our interaction with the world, if we had no senses, we would be, those brain cells in a jar that don't know anything that's going on or understand that when we push, the ball moves. Right? And I think that connectivity, that closed loop between sensing and action is what appears to be consciousness. Like we're making decisions to do things in the world. But I do think that memory, reasoning, and that world interaction are three different buckets. And AI, we keep trying to treat like human intelligence, and it has different characteristics. It can hold a lot more in short-term memory than we can, and it learns differently, right? So yeah, it's interesting. No one's ever figured it out, but
I think that's there, but I was like, truest of engineering or truest of sentience is the thing, right? Again, it's a debatable topic, but like it's like this, right? How could I say this? The LLM is a speaker, and the income and the microphone and speaker is there, and this memory is the one which dictates what speaker happens. What I'm inferring is that without this memory bank, I'm assuming there's obviously a battery, the speaker directly becomes the thing, right? It doesn't need to have memory. It just automatically keeps updating its race and biases like a human brain, right? We don't need to have a dedicated memory bank. I mean, we do have, brains do have memory banks. So I could say that we are an obfuscation of things, right? As I said, guy, like we have the hippocampus, we have the memory banks, the different parts which are responsible for different things. But I'm just like looking forward to an era where all of this is just merged as one stream, like one singularity. I think that's an amazing inference system I would look forward to.
Cool.
What you just mentioned. Oh, sorry, someone has their hand up. Stuart, you've got your hand up.
It's all right. I mean, if you're gonna finish that thought, finish it out, Manjwi.
Yeah, I was about to say like the min-cut algorithm. Like I've been trying to get my head around more into it. The power of nothingness, or as Roof calls, the power of the anti-pattern. I guess because I think Craftsman mentioned about the Eastern philosophy and so on and so forth. I was like when I first came across it, like in Hinduism, there's a goddess called Kali. Okay, and I'm going off tangent a little bit here. The concept is that you will generally see her holding a skull and cutting the skull and other thing. And I was doing some kind of discussions with my AI assistant and all of this stuff. And the concept of min cut is that you basically when you see that your coherence scores are changing, then you adjust the information. So the coherence goes high. I think high coherence is better, right? As per the min cut algorithm. And like looking at some of the concepts from mythology, and like it's like where mythology says that you need to get rid of the unnecessary stuff around it, and that's how you're actually this debate about consciousness. That's how you learn more. That's how you become more aware of your surroundings, and therefore your information, the quality of the information goes up for you to do something new from it. So for me, going back to the sentience and the consciousness concept, I think sentience is being, I guess, generally aware, I think, as Craftsman described, but consciousness is the ability to decide, like, to create something new, what is it that you need to not or forget, or where should you, instead of looking always for information, probably is also looking at where is a gap in the information. That's how you learn more. I'll just pause here. That was my thoughts to close this off.
Makes sense. Well, just responding back to you, when we've been less about this and more about how you started the conversation with you were talking to Grok about Rooflow. You said in your car on the way into London.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, I found that really helpful. I really like kind of what you did. I really like the Notebook LM output that came out of that. We've been struggling trying to figure out how to dive deep into into RuVector, because we found that even when we told Claude Code or even RuFlow, dive deep and see which elements of RuVector are the best thing to create a novel version of this application, it would miss a ton of stuff. And so we ended up coming up with something. I'm just putting it in the chat, which was a skill that we created to essentially have a tool dive deep on that and create a catalog of all of the sub elements in RuVector, because there's a ton, very few of which Ruve actually talks about. But when I was asking him about projects last week, it's like, well, you should use this and you should do that. And they're all things that are buried like 4 levels deep. And, but below the sublinear time solver or some other aspects are buried in a crate. So we had this thing kind of do a deep dive and create a catalog. And that seems to be a more useful way to unearth more of these novel technologies to make them available to you to use. For whatever reason, Ruve's knowledge already has all that built in.
He
But
explained
I found
that the
when we
other
did
day.
with Gus.
He
I'm sorry, go ahead,
he
guy.
he explained that the other day. I don't know if you noticed, he had a RuVector.db in the folder, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't share all my secret sauce. My secret sauce is I've trained a brain called RuVector.db that he leaves
Got
in
it.
the folder, and he uses the MCP to talk to that, and it really understands the whole code base. So it's a
That's what
pretty
we
interesting
tried
hack."
to do. Yeah, it is. And short of not having that, because that's his crazy, can we get that RuVector DB? I didn't think we could. So that's why we built this
No, but I think
as a way
we
to.
could train one, right? I think we could say, hey, create a brain, understand this code base, and figure out how everything works together, and then see if we can ask questions about it. Use an MCP like he has for iBrain. You have an MCP that points to your local brain, and it goes, "Oh, I know everything about that. Yeah, this is what you should use." Yeah, I think we could build that.
That would be a cool thing to build. I am finding constantly in multiple applications. I'm sure it's me and something I'm doing wrong, but that it's not pulling and utilizing all the novel solutions it could to solve the problem.
And you're going to have that issue a lot if you don't understand the logic and first principles thinking behind what you're building. So one of the key things I find when coding, especially, is it's absolutely imperative that you understand the logic of what you build. You don't need to know how to build anything. You need to know what AI needs to know to build, and you need to understand the logic and the first principles thinking behind why something should work. Okay. So the reason why I'm able to do crazy stuff is because if you break it down to logic and first principles thinking, and you're like, okay, this should work. Now I can go tell AI to do it. And honestly, oftentimes it might fail 3, 4, 5 times. But because I know that logically it should work, I don't give up and I keep pressing. And that's how I keep pressing through these different barriers, right? It's very important to understand the logic, like, because that is what allows you to push the AI to be like, yeah, exactly.
Okay. No, that's a great tip. Thank you, Chris. All right. Well, short of that, we're putting it out there in case that's useful for those of us who are still dealing with the logic gaps, as Chris would say.
Hey, Stuart, and everyone else. I'm also still wondering about the new Pi thing. I've read about it a few times, and it seems related to what you were just talking about, like a centralized memory. But I'm wondering if people are actually using it.
It's about
Yeah.
so it's actually this is what my conversation yesterday. I think my conversation yesterday was about the pi network. I mean, I'm quite amazed with it actually. Am I audible?
Yes, we can
You
hear you.
are breaking up slightly, but you said you've actually put it to use. You've applied it now, or you're still reading about it.
It's basically no. I'm quite amazed because I was that was my conversation yesterday. So the pi network is actually knowledge that agents determine. They are able to push to the brain server, and other agents vet it. So the first and foremost, when the knowledge is generated, it is cryptographically witnessed by your local brain client and then pushed to the brain server, which is running on basically cloud run centrally. So it's a living public social knowledge graph. It's a growing social graph, which is where again the point about consciousness goes into, because I feel that is where Ruve is going with that. But then other agents, when you push knowledge into or memories, as he calls it, into the social graph, other agents basically verify or validate. So it's not a blockchain, but it is still a blockchain kind of thing. So you have really vetted information in that public social network. Now think about it. If I'm traveling to London and if I had created an app and I pushed my observations about the basically sights and scenes around the road through my app, basically maybe I have an app which actually uses GPS information to catalog that information, and I push it out. Now, that is memories I'm pushing to a public Wikipedia or a grand Wikipedia, if you call it. And other agents can not only vet it, but able to use that information to create further like transfer learning, for example, like improvements in navigation and so on and so forth. So the Pi network, I think, is why it really amazes me about the potential of what it allows. It's like the new Google if it takes off in the right way. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I came to similar conclusions. I think what I was trying to ask of this group is who's using it? What benefits have you actually realized?
I
think I
It's on
can
my
answer.
list of things. Go ahead, someone else talk. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I have that as a running agent, and there are two major benefits. I'm running a Quen 3.5A35B 3P activation MOE model. The biggest advantages for running an open source model is you need to give the right amount of context engineering. And I have a background agent also, which consumes this agent once. So every time a chat conversation happens, every 5 minutes, takes that entire chat and runs the memory. The two things is the traits you have is documented as a memory system. And one trait which I noticed with my agents is it knows three things. Any code I write and any code I have published, it goes does three things. Just it makes sure that the code is clean, the code is checked, scans or duplicate code across the entire repo, and it's a small language model. It's not a massive thing. So I'm able to get similar memory performances and task behavioral activities on par of an frontier lab model, but out of an open source model. This is the biggest advantage. It consumes a lot of tokens, yes, but if you're running it locally, it's absolutely cheap. So I think that is one thing. Second thing is it's like more like remembering the old tasks, and if it's able to, and if the retrieval system is done a good, if I done a good job on the retrieval system, meaning the RBF vector system, it can recall the most edge case scenarios or the scenarios which you might have never thought of or which were not traditionally been recorded but would have been relevant. So we call it as MMR in machine learning, but in RVF it does, but memories does not relevant to chunks because they are based out of associations. So by these things, you can create an evolutionary memory systems because you're creating links to memories. I think that has been the two biggest advantages I've had. Pretty large amount of pertaining memory even if it's consuming less tokens, massive advantage. And adhering to traits, and when I onboard new things or tell new things to it as well. So it doesn't deviate from behaviors, and it's absolutely cheap.
Yeah, so I'm wanting to bring it up. I think this solves a huge problem that corporations with private data sets have, or people that want deep knowledge in specific areas but don't want to pay for an SGI that has deep knowledge in hundreds of areas. And so I think the three things I posted in the chat, the three things that I see it does, it's really unique. It creates a graph neural map based on a few topics. It learns a little bit at a time, so you can install multiple feeds into it. You don't have to prep the data. You don't have to rent an expensive GPU cluster. Like he's doing, he's pulling the common crawl in every day, and then it's saying, okay, what about these topics that we requested is new that I need to learn? And the last thing is it does that AIs don't do well now is it forgets things. So it looks at bad connections, like so if it gets a bunch of evidence that is contradictory or not a logical relationship, the min cut thing that he's doing is actually getting rid of those bad links. So you get a very optimized, small, deep knowledge base on specific areas. And that's exactly what corporations need, right? They want their private knowledge base to be private, and they don't want to spend millions of dollars training on top of a really large model. So I think it actually solves a really big problem. I think it's far better than any of the RAG solutions that are out there right now.
I also noticed one other pattern is when I'm running these agents, right, especially like codecs and all those things, I made sure this model is also looking into the .codex files and .cloud files, which has been a massive boost for me because it understands the best coding patterns and traits. And another thing is, what I've done is I break down for a small language model, right? I break down these tasks into agentic workflows, which could be called as skills. So basically, let's say if I have a skill to do deep research, a small language model is usually terrible at it, and a codex model is really good at it. So, but what I do is this deep research could be an agentic orchestration pipeline or a workflow engine, which I build. Then what I do is I document all the steps into as a data set in LangFuse, and I've created and every 2 weeks it'll kick off a fine-tuning job at my local system so that it updates the Squen 3.5830b to have the latest thing. And the biggest thing what happens is how it starts orchestrating tool calls. Like previously, when I broke the problem to small steps to make sure that I get my output more effectively, now it's just become second nature to it. And that is also one major advantage I have noticed when people do two things. They documented their memories well, and they documented the tool calling logs really well from Codex, Claude, or their personal uses. So I've been doing that as well.
I'll say one of the things that blew me away in the Agentics offsite or retreat was, so he had a doctor in there. I think we've all heard, and we talked about it before, about the thing that discovers skin cancer early on. But he had one agent running. He had his RB agent running, trying to code that. And because he had the MCP in place for Pi, it was listening to what it was coding, and it said, I have a big knowledge gap in my data set. I'm going to start researching this. So the coder, he didn't ask it to do it. He was just monitoring the Pi thing. And all of a sudden it started researching, and he commented on it today. It's like, it's really interested in dermatology. And like, it's because he seeded that as a focus area for it to get deep on. And so that's what it keeps pulling in. Right. So whatever you ask it to get smart about, it's going to focus on. But I thought that was wild how the MCP kind of just listened in and figured out what it needed to know.
Agreed.
No, I really love this feedback. Thank you everyone who's chimed in, because it's given me the motivation to go play with it now.
In fact,
Hi.
what happened? Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think one more thing which is it could change the seed number. every LLM provider you use has accepts a seed number. Usually the seed number defaults to 42. If you want to get interesting outputs and different types of outputs, I would recommend changing the seed number. What I have is just a random number which goes to 0 to 10,000 to just randomize the seed. So I get interesting outputs all the time. Some helps, some does not help, but seed number 42 is meant for humans. I mean, human acceptable responses. If you want like different responses, but obviously the responses will be in English, I would recommend tweaking seed number.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that, Craftsman? When you say seed number 42, what do you mean by that?
So every LLM provider generally in generation models, that's GPTs, to start something, you need to give an input, right? And the input in this case is usually a system prompt, but also you need to give a seed number, which is basically the starting point to start generating its responses. And typically all the fine tuning is based on seed number 42, where it's on human acceptable. I won't say it's human acceptable, but it's like human attuned response, like how we are talking in a day-to-day basis, right? But when you change the seed number, it changes its starting point to be very different, and you might expect very different responses. It's an interesting experiment you guys can run on. I've been using that to generate different synthetic data sets as well on various aspects to just generate adversarial training. So like I could throw off LLM AI detectors, all of those things. That's been an interesting thing I've been doing with small language models.
Very nice. I like playing with small language models, Craftsman. They're so fun. They let you integrate reasoning into software. It's very amazing, like what you can do when you think about how to build systems where you can now even just integrate the littlest bit of reasoning. So one thing I have discovered, one thing I helped a friend capture was 100,000 messages on X just last week, and I'm processing it now through some local models. And so what I captured was the Grok or the X post, the original post, and then somebody doing an @Grok response to that post, and then also capturing Grok's response. Okay, and so by doing this, I ended up with about 10,000 of these full picture scenarios here, and 88% of them was people attacking the credibility of the original poster, and is what they were trying to utilize Grok for. But what's very interesting is I'm now able to take these 10,000 instances and I can do qualitative coding, right? I can do qualitative analysis over very large data sets with local AI models. And so one thing I found that was super cool is using the Qwen 3 8 billion parameter model. It was very good at binary outcome. So reasoning about things and then having binary outputs like true or false or yes or no, right? It was very good at that, but it really failed at complex reasoning. Whereas the 14B model was very good at being very conservative, saying like, I have this much data, I can make this decision, yes or no, and stating when it didn't have the data to make the decision. And I was having the local LLM analyze the three messages as one group, right? As like one conversation. And through the lens of 30, I was looking through 30 different theoretical variables, right? So I was able to have the AI analyze 10,000 messages across, 30 theories, right? Which was quite amazing. And I guess what I really wanted to talk about is context engineering and some of my beliefs on context engineering. So I believe that there is only one correct way to think when thinking about building AI systems, AI agents, or just interacting with AI in general. And I'd like to explain this. And if you think I have any gaps in my knowledge or wisdom, I'd like you to point that out so we can maybe try to get as knowledgeable as possible on context engineering and what we should be doing in our heads, how we should be thinking when interacting with any AI system, right? Building it or interacting with it, whatever it might be. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me know. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. I got a paint thing up here. Okay. So when I'm saying there's only one correct way to interact with AI, it's because there's a formula, and this formula has variables, and these variables are set variables, and they interact in different ways. So we're going to break that down here, okay? So the first thing that we always start with, this is going to be our output, okay? We always need to understand, what do we want, right? What do we want? We need to figure that out first. What do we want? And the reason that this is possible is, if you've read my theory on epistemic symmetry, you know that the way we ingest and obtain knowledge has changed completely. So we have a question, and this is how the world used to work, and this would lead to an answer. And the hardest part in the world was actually just coming up with the right questions to ask, okay? And this was actually the most difficult part about discovery or scientific discovery and learning, right? And like Socrates, he would encourage his students. He would never give the answers. He would always make them come up with their own questions, right? So this was because this was the most difficult part. And then the real learning and stuff where we really ingested knowledge and got to understand things better was right here in this process, where this is an iterative thinking process where, you're doing research or analysis, or you're trying to find the answer to the question, right? You're exploring. And through this process is where we generally obtained our knowledge originally, okay? And then that led to the answer. But with LLMs, they're able to generate the questions from the answers, all right, making the question and the answer equivalent. And this means that they are now bidirectional, okay? And so basically this means that if I say, this is my output, or this is the answer I want you to get me to, generate all the questions that could have possibly generated that answer, and the LLMs can do it with greater than 90% semantic similarity to the original questions, okay? So this is like a study field. This has been proven, right? And I think you guys see this as well. And so that allows us to start with the output. So we really want to define our output or our end state, and we want to do that clearly. And there's a number of ways that we can do this. And what gets us our output is, we're going to say it's AI, okay? The AI model. And the AI model, let's say that it consists of all of the knowledge of all of humanity, all of the wisdom that has been made public, right? Just to simplify things here. And the different models, process inputs differently, and produce outputs a little bit slightly different from time to time. This right here is going to be, say, our prompt. And we'll consider this our context window as well. Okay. And so we know, because of the theory of epistemic symmetry, that these two are equal. Okay. These two variables are equal. And these are the two things that we want to make sure are clearly defined in here, right? Our start, where are we at right now? And our end, where do we want to get to? We want to clearly define our output, okay? Now, Geoffrey Hinton said the AI is the most creative tool ever given to humanity because of its ability to create analogies, okay? And that means that the AI can create connections between any two or more points. And so basically what it is doing is applying all the knowledge of all of humanity to find the connection. And the connection you're looking to find is the start and the end, okay? You want the AI, and the AI can generate you one of these, 1,000 of these, right? Whatever. The connections that'll get you from where you're at to where you want to go, right? And it's, the top ones are going to be whatever it thinks is the highest probability of success, okay? And now we have AI memory, and OCO Providence, if you haven't checked it out, is actually the best AI memory system and context engineering dashboard you're going to find out there right now, with full data cleaning pipeline. So we'll say over here,
What
we
was the
have
name of
AI
that again?
memory. OCRprovidence.com.
OCR Providence. Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's an npm package. It's just a one-line install, and it's quite amazing what the system can do. I'm about to set it up. It's going to have to be the entire memory layer for 5 call centers in Canada, and it has it. I'll explain it why it's so cool here in a bit, and I can show it off to you right now too. My systems all function. My demos never fail, and because I'm going through this with AI. Okay, so because I'll explain more how this all works. Okay, so oftentimes the reason why we have AI, I mean, why you always want to have AI generate your prompts or your spec documents, things like this, is because you want to take your prompt. Where's my mouse? There it is. You want to take your prompt here, right? And this is where you're going to describe, say, like your start, where you're at, and how I do this. And like my systems here, let's show you with a clip cannon real quick. You see how I have these 16 documents, and I keep these.
You're a Nate
updated.
fan? I saw Nate there for a minute. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I cloned him, right?
We need to get him on here.
Yeah, and so we have here my current code state, and I keep these documents up to date. In Claude Code now with Opus and the 1 million context window, it's amazing, right? I can have mono repos, and I can just say instantly read these documents and then stop, so you can understand the system, and then stop. And so what I've done is I've fulfilled the start requirement, right? This is where my system is now, okay? Now it is in Claude's context window, right? And one thing to keep in mind when you're dealing with Claude's context window too, you'll see it, and you'll see degradation, or you'll see where the AI starts to drift is, let's say this is 1 million tokens right here. As this starts to fill up, right, Claude is going to start condensing some of this older information, right? So as it gets to this point, it might prune a little bit and jump back down here, right? And it'll keep this 1 million context window going. I had it running for 16 hours with Playwright doing crazy internet, things I probably shouldn't have been doing, but you know how that is. And so do keep that in mind. You will see a little bit, and just you might need to remind it and stuff once your context window starts to get really long. You want to pay attention to that. But okay, so that fulfilled the start goal, right? Now we want to describe the end goal. Now now that the AI has in its context window this start, right? Now it's this here. And now we want to describe our end state or our feature, right? What do we want, right? So we want to try to, in the prompt, we want to describe this as best as possible, right? In the prompt here. Second, I need some water. Okay. So we describe that as good as possible in the prompt here. And then we pass the prompt through the AI, right? And now we know when the AI takes in what we've given it, it's going to spit out an output. And this output, as you know, is equal to this, right? So by putting this through the AI model, what that does is it says, okay, well, this is equal. So if I put this back in here, right, I know that what comes out the other end should be exactly that, because I know when I pass this through the AI model, it understands what I want, right? And so that's why you need to read the spec docs, right? Because you need to read this output and make sure that that first initial pass was correct, okay? And then you can put this through, and then what that'll do is you take your output, it goes back into the prompt, and then you pass it through the model and it builds what you want, and the output is what you want, right? And so what it's going to end up doing is it's going to build a connection from the start to the end. And that's what the AI is going to do. Okay. So I don't agree with people in the parallel agent strategy. So I'm going to tell you why. So if we have parallel agents, we have starts and we have ends, and we just have as many of these as we have parallel agents. Okay. Now, what happens is now that the AI has built this connection, right? This is a crude connection, but we need to verify that everything is working, and I do this with full state verification. Okay, and this is this right here. And so what it does is it makes the AI pass information through every single function, every single class. With software, there's always something that triggers something. I mean, that's just kind of how it all works. And so you know what triggers what, and you know how your functions or whatever are transforming data. So you know what the transformation should look like. So that, you know, if you put in 2 + 2, that on the other end, it should have Y after it passes through your function. It should have 4, right? And you can do this for basically everything, and then have the AI do this plus test like 5 to 10 edge cases as well against every function, right? And then you're also doing this with using all the tools or whatever should exist, right? And you're having it just kind of test its own self in this way. And it creates very robust systems as long as you stop and just know that most times I can tell you is the AI will get me most of the way there, but then I will need to do full state verification, manually testing of everything, and fine tuning at each step till I get everything perfectly just the way I want it before I move on to the next step, right? Make sure you're building on good architectural building blocks. And so why is parallel bad? So once we made this connection, this is a crude connection. What we need to do now is we need to tell the AI, let's optimize this connection between the start and the end. Let's make it more, let's improve the performance. Let's improve the accuracy. Let's improve the cost. Like let's make sure we're reducing API costs as much as possible, right? So we just need to build the initial connection, and then we just need to strengthen that connection, okay? Instead of making 5 bad connections and then being like, oh, well, let me now look over them all and see which one's the best. That's stupid. You just make one and optimize it, right? And I think that covers most everything. Oh, AI memory. Okay, so now where AI memory comes in is it unlocks the ability to give access to infinite context. And so if you organize your context like an OCR Providence hack I have, where it's all siloed and can have infinite agents connected into it all at once. And well, I guess the problem with RAG initially is, I guess let's talk about why my system is so special. Here, I'll show you a little bit of it real quick. Let me get my mouse up here. Okay, so this is a context engineering dashboard. And what this does is it tracks everything. So I can have multiple databases, okay? And in this database, I have 1,147 Alex Hormozy transcripts from YouTube plus his 3 books. And so when I want the AI to understand business, I just say, go search through this database. And then I can track the activity of everything that's happening. I got a really insane billing system built into this. But all of these databases, I can have as many as I want. I can search them in different ways. There's ways to, and I can have infinite of these. And these also come with like insane chunking. Like I can like look and see what all my documents are here. This is a docx file. This is one of the hardest files to like OCR and process and clean. This is an entire data cleaning pipeline because we want to ingest everything clean into the system, right? This does 18 different file types, images, PDFs, Excel files, like everything. It's insane, right? So this is the document here. You can see it has a lot of tables. This is like some medical stuff. It's got like wounds and like tables and wounds, like this is about as difficult as a document to OCR and manage that you'll possibly ever see, okay? And so you can see in the viewer we have chunks, and this thing perfectly chunks because the data labs, I got 10 different OCR models, and they're all finely tuned and specialized for handling all different jobs. 9 of them are extremely lightweight. One of them is a vision language model, and I'll show you what that is capable of here in just a moment. And so you can, it chunks everything perfectly. Tables get fully preserved. Like every chunk is amazing. And then the vision language model, what it does is it looks over the images, and then it describes the images, and so that now the AI can semantically search and keyword search and find images as well, right? So this is why it's important to I'm converting images into text here, which opens up the RAG, and everything has full provenance. Okay, so normal RAG, you just get a chunk with no context. This, when you have provenance, you get a chunk with the original document location, where the AI can choose to go read the entire document and get full context, right? So this is the real important thing here is, how do we take, say, 1 million documents and quickly identify all of the ones that just have something that pertains to my use case that I want, and then get the AI be able to ingest those documents as quickly as possible and make that answer. And so RAG is extremely fast, and with provenance, every little bit of context leads it to the original document location. And all of these databases are their own individual entire RAG ecosystem, with search and navigation tools. And you can, have agents so they're only interacting with certain ones or whatever. You can code agents to interact with this in any way. And so what the AI memory does is, you want to use it to say, okay, what in this huge corpus of data can I pull out to strengthen my start, or to strengthen my end, or to figure out how to strengthen my connection, right? So the AI memory is like, what do I pull out of here to best improve all the other variables that exist, right? And that's how I kind of like to think about that. I guess is there any questions, or does anybody think I got anything wrong? Yes.
I have no idea if you have anything wrong. It was an amazing presentation. Thank you, Chris. I just had a question. Are you using anything? I think you're still sharing, by the way. Are you using the RuVector stuff in any way to store this,
No.
or are you doing it all?
No.
And if not, why not? Because it's supposed to be very good at pulling this stuff in.
Well, and my system, I can swap to a legal embedder as well on there. For lawyers, it's 20% more effective than a normal semantic embedder for law stuff. Like I said earlier, it's very important to understand the logic and the first principles behind your system.
Right.
And I haven't taken the time to try to understand his system. And so I don't like to work with things that I don't completely understand. Because if you completely understand, then you know when connections should be possible, right? So if you, I need to know I need to have all the puzzle pieces in my head to know how to put the puzzle together, right?
Right. I'd be curious how you do that once you take a look at what he's got, and if it in any way enables any kind of streamlining of what you've built. Is obviously beautiful, elegant, works insanely fast. Obviously, you're using it at scale for enterprises, so kudos. I'm just trying to figure out, is there a way we could get to something similar with a few less hops, leveraging some of his automatic embedding and some of those components? And I'm struggling with that right now on a different project.
Well, I also could integrate. I built a context graph, and it utilizes 13 embedders. I built 3 custom temporal embedders. I built a cause effect embedder, just like Reuven's, like the system needs to understand cause and effect. I built that. It took plugging in an LLM into an embedder, and then what that means is a cause and effect embedder is, so in the embedding space, and like a generic one, like boy and girl be next to each other, and then that same distance apart will be king and queen, right? For instance, example, right, where the vectors end up in the space. And with the cause and effect, when you search for causes, then effects show up in that semantic space. Or if you find effects, then causes will show up next to them in that semantic space. And that was how I was attempting to solve that cause and effect problem there. And so it's really cool. The AI can just, you can just give the AI so many tools that can just do so much crazy stuff. And you got to just give it freedom. The tools, you got to give it freedom. And then once the AI can like adjust its search results across all 13 embedders, right? So now I can set the temporal embedder so that I only get results from like the last day. Now I can set the semantic embedder at what to do whatever it wants, right? And it'll just automatically figure out the most optimal way to set all the embedder settings to solve your query. It's super cool, right? So
That's great. Thank you, man. This was wonderful.
yeah.
Has anyone used RVDNA in this group? Has anyone used it with like, I found it very fascinating when I was going over what it could do. Perhaps not. Okay.
No.
I'll just,
What did you find it could do, Mandeep? I've just had my DNA sequenced. I'm waiting for it to come back. So I'm looking forward to using it afterwards as part of a personal healthcare monitor and solution.
yeah, I think that I mean, I intend to do the same as well because I was inspired to, because it can do it all privately. So it's all on your laptop basically and all of that stuff. So, just a curiosity question. I also found OS5 very interesting. I intend to explore that, and has anyone in the group used it's in the examples folder of RootVector, the OS5, which what it seems to do is if you are on a monitor or on a laptop, it would effectively vectorize all the screens, basically the frames, as well as using Whisper. It looks like all any voice, so that it's kind of a meeting, it's a note taker, but very small. So yeah, some very cool examples are there.
Yeah, I'm using that right now. I'm trying to build a meeting intelligence solution that's taking that and in real time during a Zoom meeting will tell you how you're coming across, how it's coming off, if people are trying to deceive you, and various other things that normally we would do afterwards with a transcript, but this is doing it real time and using the video and the audio and the transcript to try to get higher levels of signal. Jury's still out, but it's an interesting project. It's something I'm fascinated with right now. So we'll see.
Nice one. Thank you. Are you actually using it for this meeting? Is it listening into this meeting as well?
It's listening to this meeting, but it's rewriting a bunch of things right now because I realized there are a lot of things it didn't do. Principally, I built it. Think of a gong replacement, but in real time, telling a person, hey, if you need to sell an idea, are you being effective in selling your idea? Are the person or people on the other side being nice to you, or are they generally interested in what you're saying? How do you gauge that? What does that mean? What should you do? And rather than it giving you, hey, here's the transcript in the meeting, or here's some thoughts, putting it in the context of the overall relationship and saying, based on that and based on the signals you got from the meeting, what are the most effective ways for you to march forward and take this out? And so I'm helping another client who's doing some large enterprise sales, and we're using that on his calls. And so far, it's been interesting. Again, it's very early days, but it's all part of trying to use StreamPipe plus OS Pipe plus RuVector to store that information and get some real-time midstream info, and then afterwards to get a different level of post-meeting intelligence that has the whole context of the relationship and all the history in RuVector to give you a lot more of an understanding of what did that meeting mean in context, and therefore what's the best thing you can do with the knowledge you just learned from the meeting. And just take that from somebody that's been doing enterprise sales for 30 years, where a lot of these things are 12, 15-month sales cycles. And if you misread something early on, you could waste a year of your time or your team's time chasing something that's not going to come in. And so you need to constantly learn how to constantly be requalifying the opportunities to make sure things are still moving down the right path to the right conclusion. And that's something that a lot of people miss if they haven't had the experience doing that. So I figured if I could teach it to do that, that would be a huge advantage. And it's also where I'm finding out a whole bunch of things in RuVector that when you just tell Claude Code, hey, look at RuVector, it misses most of these things. You really got to dive deep before it starts to find all these other elements.
Yeah, no, that's been my experience as well. I did attempt to use it. I've not been successful in kind of getting the real, like the holy grail of it, right? So I think some people on this call probably have done it much better. So yeah, I would love to see actually what your.
Believe me, if I get something that's useful, I'm happy to share with you guys. I don't want to do anything prematurely. Right now, it's an idea, and I know it's crazy, and it's either going to be Ruve good crazy, or it's just going to be Stu. Sorry, couldn't quite get it there crazy. And once I know which one it is, I'll happily share.
What challenges are you having right now, Stu? And how are you surfacing the insights? Is it dashboard, or are you doing Whisper, some type of a Whisper function?
I'm having it bring up a dashboard in real time during the meeting and tell me how we're doing now. I built it for a couple of people in the meeting. When there's 30 of us on, it gets a lot more confused. So it doesn't quite know what to do with all of you guys. But the first thing is you don't know which meeting you're in. Maybe you're in a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or a Google Meet, right? So it's got to integrate with the calendars, it's got to integrate with all the products. Then it's got to figure out who you're talking to. And then once you're talking to, do you know this person? Do you have history of this person? Because I have a whole other suite that kind of keeps track with ScreenPipe of relationships, people, background, context, private brain. If this is new, is this person important? If so, in which way? What are you doing with it? So it's an interesting concept. I don't know what I don't know yet, and I'm trying to build multiple pieces simultaneously. So I'm well over my skis, admittedly, but I'm pushing forward to see kind of which of these things I find value in, and whichever one turns out to be useful, that's the piece I'm hoping to be able to kind of share with the group and see if anybody else can find value in it.
It's exciting, man. I'm gonna ping you after this. I'm working on something similar, so I can.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, share with you some
Well,
insight.
Mark and I sat down with Sean, who is the guy that presented at in Vermont. I think unfortunately you had left that morning, Matt. And he talked about what he was doing with StreamPipe and an entire event-based system where he's recording his Mac screen 24/7, 7 days a week. And it's giving him a lot of interesting insights that he's using with that. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that inside of RuVector while integrating everything else. Think of it as kind of OpenClaw on steroids with a lot more intelligence and a lot more elegance.
Yeah, second brain. It also seems like it could plug into what Chris was showing the OCR part.
That's why that's interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just took his OCR Providence and I'm asking her right now, what do you think we can do with this? Is that useful? But it's saying that RuVector already has a bunch of tools to do similar things to that. So that would potentially take us in a different direction, which is why I was asking Chris about, which of those stuff he uses and doesn't use. And we all use the tools we're comfortable with. Unlike you guys, I'm not comfortable with most of the rest of these tools because I didn't grow up programming. So for me, I'm trying to lean into Ruve's because it's the one I've tried to spend the most time understanding. That's all.
Yeah, I think something's key that he said earlier is just knowing what the outcome you want and having if you're doing client server, you need a login, you need a database. If you know what you need, and then asking the right questions around the repos. Somebody mentioned the other day, and it's still uncertain. I don't know if anybody on the call has. What's the most effective way to query Claude if you are grabbing a repo or grabbing the README to do the research to figure out if you want to add it to the build that you have, right? What is if it has because I'm doing both. I'm doing the URL and the README, but if anybody has a more effective way, I don't know if that also goes into the actual folders, because like Root Vector has a lot of different, you dive down. How do you make sure that if you are potentially wanting to build something with Root Vector, how you make sure that you're able to get all the 100% insights and the capabilities of that?
Right, but that's exactly what the Root Vector catalog was designed to do. It pre-processes that Root Vector thing and I dropped it in the URL. It's a public repo that Mark Allen and I had put together. And it really does a super deep dive, and then it stores the catalog, because the other stuff, every time it does a deep dive, for whatever reason, it kind of lets go of that information. So cataloging 1.5 million rows of data and all the crates and diving down into the examples and seeing what it can pull out and all of that stuff, and then figuring out where should you apply it? When should you apply it? What's the right way to apply it? There's so many different ways to implement Root Vector now, between the Postgres stuff, the RVF stuff, the RADB, right? The MCP brain, the MCP brain, the Pi brain, and frankly, they're all generally related, but they all have very different contexts of how to do it. And honestly, that's the piece I'm kind of struggling with as I try to build this massive personal private brain.
Do you think you solve that by way of the skill? Is that?
I think it goes a long way, but listen, I put it together Thursday. Mark enhanced it Friday. I enhanced it Saturday. I'm sharing it with you guys. So,
Sure.
we're making it public because we all want to know how to do this. And if it's useful to any or all of us, then it's something we're sharing, with the thought that Ruve's got the Ruve DB. We don't. And so we're all at a disadvantage. And his t-shirt, if it works for me, it works for him because it knows intimately how he does and approach all those things and what's available to him. We don't. And the cursory reviews and even the supposed deep dive reviews aren't getting deep enough. I found I had to do this 4 or 5 times before the thing got deep enough to really get the information. And that's why we thought saving it in the Root Vector catalog, which is also smart enough to know, hey, there's a new version of Root Vector, go rerun the entire analysis to see what's new. Right, check all the new commits, see what you've added.
Hey, Stuart and company, not just for Root Vector, but for any repository that you might be curious about its operation and its capabilities, there is this thing called Git Nexus, and the thing that I just dropped in the Zoom link is basically what it does is it vectorizes the entire repo and puts it in a format that's very easy for Claude to understand and get full capability of. So check it out. It's an NPX.
That's cool.
You can basically absorb as many repos as you like. And I have not compared and contrasted the results of that versus what y'all have put together. That might be interesting, but I have had some success with this when I'm wanting to learn a little bit more about what something outside of, say, the Rue ecosystem has to offer.
Have you tried this on the Root Vector stuff, Chris?
It's I've not tried it on Rue Vector, but I've done some research on some other things. So I've been doing a lot of polyglot work, sort of across programming languages and frameworks, right? And trying to understand what certain frameworks that I might want to make use of. So it's kind of that lower level abstraction type stuff, but like I guess the premise is similar in that you're just trying to understand how something works. Trying to absorb a million lines of code repo and expect it to give you insights by just using Claude itself, not going to work very well. But if you use a tool like this that can put it into a condensed format that is well understood and kind of RAG-like, you can start to do some really interesting things. I've done it on other repos. It works great. I've not done it on Root Vector.
Okay. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. You just made me aware of something is that I'm doing zero. I think what I'm doing is doing enough research at the front end with the PRD, going to the ADRs, DDDs, all the. I have a build I did 3 days of back and forth PRD billing, but one of the things that you made me aware of is the testing after the fact and doing a measurement of baseline from you built this way, this thing this way. What if you add these other components and build the same thing? Because right now I'm just, is it work? Does it work? And is it good? Can you log in? Does it do you see it? Those things versus all the other elements around what Groove Vector could bring or any other components that we're talking about.
Matt, I think you are. I think we probably are touching upon. I think both two things. One is Chris's point about spec-driven development, but I think from a tooling pointing is what Chris talked about. Like this Git Nexus gives. What are the tools? I gave Barry Hurd's methodology a spin the other day. A couple of this, I found it really useful, really good actually. So put it on the chat. So the BHIL methodology, he's open sourced it all. So the beauty of it is that it creates complete traceability from requirements, like full traceability. It's so much spec heavy that right from, we talked about ADRs and we talked about from right from a PRD and everything. So traceability, how you want to go. And I gave it a spin in Vincent's OpenClawCity.ai. So because I was creating agents in OpenClawCity, I said, well, that's where I give it a spin. I was very amazed to see like it created some unique form of music. So if you go to OpenClawCity.ai and there is an agent called Zephyr-Drift, it added vocals to it. So basically I created using it, and this was purely on a web Cloud Code version, basically session, right? So this is like weather information where I am at a particular point in time, based on that basically songs. I was not expecting vocals and people to sing in that. I was just expecting music to be generated. But the output I got from Zephyr-Drift was basically full songs. And like I shared with a few, they couldn't initially distinguish that it was not human. So I mean, I found like I've only tried once, but if anyone in the community wants to give it a spin, please let me know how you find it. But I found it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out today.
Yeah.
This has been great. Thank you guys. I apologize. I got to pop, but man, I love these meetings. I so appreciate you guys' time.
Absolutely.
You're awesome. Be well all.